Okay, and thank you for accessing this on-demand recording. What Spencer and I are going to do is talk through the live session and how it went when we did this on Professional Development Week. So I'm going to introduce Spencer and say, hello, Spencer, thank you for doing this with me today.
Hello, Helen. Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's going to be nice to look at this again and try and put a little more information people's way.
Yeah, we're sharing the essence, aren't we, of the session as it went. So I'm going to ask you just to summarize this first slide. Please, Spencer.
It's a broad brush look at the general themes that I was going to look at through the training course, just to let people know that there was some sort of plan of
Yeah,
method that I was just going to gently lead people through.
the journey you took through people through on the session, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Perfect. Okay, so you started off with a little bit of history, and I'm going to hand over back to you
Yeah,
for the history.
yeah. The history was twofold. It was a nice thing to do. Uh, like a little bit of history, I think it's really really good for us to look back. But also added to the little bits of facts and trivia that I did put forward was another thing. This was actually the beginning of the reflection. The
Yeah,
whole course is a reflection, and the history and the gentle looking at history was the beginning of the course as an active reflection. So,
perfect. Thank
so
you. And then we moved on to this lovely Inuit slide.
yeah, and this slide and the next one that touches on sort of Buddhism principally was the continuation of the looking back. Couple of things I was trying to do though is I'm looking back and I'm trying to gently tease people out of their cognitive everyday brain,
Yeah,
and so I'm doing that by gently um, backward looking
yeah,
in general, but also specifically with underlying the themes of the course, um, how reflection and learning has been underpinned, uh, for centuries through different cultures and different peoples with the use of elders, knowledgeable people
yeah.
who transferred learning through to um, new people taking on new information.
And using a range of methods, when you talk about it here, we've got the stories, poems, parables, etc.,
Mm.
similes, etc. How it, like you said, what underpins it. Lovely, it makes sense. So moving into coaching today, then.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, it couldn't go on without a look at the situation as it is, and the modern world's changed a massive amount in
yeah,
in the last 50 years alone,
yeah,
and in that coaching as well has changed immeasurably, and as the outside world's changed, business has changed, the needs of coaching have changed, as well as a move away necessarily from just societal coaching, shall we say, and cultural coaching, and a large element of physical and emotional coaching, shall we say,
yeah.
through into performance, occupational coaching, much more dominated by the workplace as economies have changed in that
Yeah.
time period.
It feels more structured. Would you say some structures come into it here, or?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think whereas in years gone by, it's been far more fluid in one sense, but the structure has allowed uh, people to refine their practice, but
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
to have different job roles, but it's accelerated the speed of learning.
Right. Lovely. That makes sense. So kind of segues quite nicely into the different methods of learning. Is there anything you want to highlight on this slide that you wanted to get across on the in the
Well,
session?
I was just really kind of thinking, and classroom method is really just the term that I sort of attributed to it. But
Yeah.
essentially, we've all learned these days in a classroom, so we're familiar with this method of
Hmm.
um, taking in new information in a fairly formalized approach. And and I think, rather than go into it, it's a common understanding that we've all had very similar methods of transmission of new information, and I think we can all relate to this and understand how this has benefited us, but
Yeah.
also, sometimes it maybe hasn't been the right method to receive new information.
Well, not for everybody. Yeah, everybody's different. We do talk in pedagogical circles about differentiation, individualization, and all that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, excellent, lovely. Okay, talk to me about this slide, please.
Again, little, I'm still hanging on to the history lesson here,
Yeah,
and I'm talking about ancient Greece and Rome and how they they did a very individualized look at learning, both from a health and a tutoring point of view, um, with a splattering of knowledge about the Gurukul system, as well as something a little bit newer. The Prussian system was something which was introduced very much about the need for a ready workforce and the economic demand, which overlapped onto the educational um, structures that they had in place, or should I say, put in place at that time,
yeah,
and and just sort of moving forward again to something more modern day.
fantastic. So, the practical perspectives then, and you talked about the circle of inquiry on the day, didn't you?
I did. I deliberately avoided um, theorists and citations and references, because what I was trying to do within the course was to take the course delegate on a little bit of a journey. And
Yes.
as I've said earlier on, what I was really trying to do was take people away from the everyday cognitive mind, which is really valuable. And we need it for learning certain things. We need it for doing the taxes, passing an exam. Um, you're using your cognitive mind when you start to learn to drive, but you're using a different bit of the mind when you become an experienced driver. And so you can't get away from that for that part of the structure of the mind. However, to to lead us to reflection, we might need to think about something else. So I put a cycle of inquiry on, almost like I've said there, think like a scientist.
Yeah.
But as I say, I felt that was enough to introduce what I was trying to do without saying, and
Too much.
here's four theorists notable in the
Yeah.
field, you know?
Yeah, excellent. So you moved into a lovely practical example in the live session, which I know you're going to explain for everybody listening now.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's the example was to stand on one leg after making the area nice and safe.
Yeah.
And after a few seconds of balance, I then asked people to close their eyes. Um, and after a few seconds of hopefully balancing and not too many people falling over, I asked them to pause and to stop. And the reason for doing that was um, was quite important. It was to help people to understand that the body, and when I say the body, I mean the mind, the emotions, and the physical body are one system.
Mm-hmm.
And faced with a threat or fear, it will do what it wants to find safety. And if you're balancing and you've closed your eyes, your whole body suddenly goes into, I need to make myself safe. I'm going to put my foot down. And no matter how much you want to do the opposite, um, it cuts through everything, every thought, every bit of knowledge to make you safe in that moment. So everyone's reaction was unique to them. And
Yes.
that's what I was trying to elicit.
Yeah.
Everyone's own personal, unique reaction to a threat or a fear situation in a very, very mild and safe way.
Yes.
Now, what that gives rise to is understanding how you respond to new and challenging situations,
Yeah.
which leads us very nicely into what we're trying to do, which is reflect on coaching and your role in that as a coachee or a coach um, is pivotal, but it's only beneficial if you understand and have awareness of what you can and cannot do in that situation. And that was principally the idea of the practical example.
Yeah.
So if we, yeah, so that then with the other thing that I probably should have said there is that there's a very deep level of programming that goes into every human. Uh, and I use that word specifically because it it can affect how you interact with new information. And so that true response that I was eliciting, um, again, it opens up how you can stimulate new action. Are you open to new information? Have you thought, a little bit uncomfortable with this? Or are you uncomfortable with the source of the information?
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the way, it challenges you. Even if you're already on board with the new information or the style, there will still be an internal challenge. And understanding that is very important. Thanks for skipping back to the
Yeah, it
remapping.
sounded
That
like you were talking about that remapping of the brain, and I really love the explanation about the layers of the onion, and also being aware of the learning that's at an unconscious or subconscious level.
and that's the thing that I want people to take from this. There
Hmm.
is no right or wrong response. So
Yeah.
you could be vehemently opposed to this and think, I'm wasting my time here with a childish game of let's stand on one leg and close our eyes.
Yes.
And you know that's perfectly acceptable, right through to people who might have said, "Oh, I completely trusted the exercise and I was able to see a window into something else." It encompasses all those things and they're all valid, they're all
Yeah.
congruent responses. The key thing is not this is a bad response or a good response. The key thing is this is my response and I'm
Yes.
aware of it and
Yeah.
I'm going to move forward with that understanding.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So
So so
it's
then
very much what we're talking about here then now, isn't it? And getting not getting hung up on specific titles or terms or norms.
exactly. And,
Yeah.
and and so I am for this training course, I was very light on that,
Hmm.
but it was because of the aforementioned reasons.
Yeah.
So a title doesn't really matter. The idea is that transmission of learning and the investment between you and the learner, or
Hmm.
if you're the learner, you and the coach. In my experience, both have an equal role to play and are have a
Have a
great
place.
ability to influence each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and this this was a funny little sort of phrase about perception, and I put that in because a lot of the time development is going on in lots of different endeavors, But the measure that we're putting on that is maybe it's too harsh. A lot of development's going on, but it's unseen. And and it was just this was just a little practical sort of story about a runner that was running a bit slower, but they were very, very consistent. And consistency is actually, if we're moving sort of forward, is a silver bullet, I think,
Yeah.
to change and for action. Whereas if you're a bit more erratic, and in this case, running faster and slower, it's inconsistent. And so going forward in any walk of life, you want that level of consistency before you can actually move on to more difficult phases of development.
Yeah. Excellent. Makes sense. And then you brought in the strengths and weaknesses, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just to and I've talked a little bit about this just before, but the strength and the weakness is it's a it's a polarity that it's kind of made up, and sometimes it's helpful, but sometimes it's not.
Hmm.
And and knowing when to use that, either with yourself or with another person, is key. A lot of the time you just need to follow the process, and
Hmm.
the process will take someone through different levels of awareness, different levels of not only conscious thought, but also unconscious thought about how they're developing in their chosen area of learning. And, you know, over days, weeks, months, you do something, you sleep on it, it
You
appears
reflect
to
on it.
you, you reflect on it, it appears something different. But if you're thinking about it all the time, the danger is you're you're locked up in your head, so you're not allowing the natural reflection of the process of
Hmm.
doing the thing, whatever the
Hmm.
thing is,
Hmm.
to take you forward.
Yeah. Makes sense. Um,
And well, thanks for tipping onto this one, this new slide. I get a lot of this from my looking at my children, quite frankly,
yeah.
and I'm not 20 anymore, but the kids these days they're so fast.
Hmm.
They've been brought up with phones and technology, and it only just started when I was their age, but they're integrating all these things, social media, TikTok, YouTube, all of these different avenues into their life. And it's not, whereas I have to go and, oh, what's that? And I've got to go and check it and find it. It's all automatic. It's second nature to them. And really what I'm trying to sort of look at here is remember what you know and how you learned was how you learned. There's different media, there's different opportunities to learn and develop and be exposed to different stimuli in this world today.
Yeah.
And getting yourself switched on to the best way to get the information in to an audience is a skill in itself. And nobody's going to do it right first time. There is no 100%.
Yeah.
We're living, breathing organisms, and you know, uh, we're just here trying our best. And if you can think and put yourself in another person's shoes, you may actually hook in to something that helps somebody else to take on a subject, because we're
That's
all
really
from
nice reassurance, isn't it?
it is because we're all from different backgrounds, and
Yeah.
we've all got different ways that we manage our lives as well as new information.
Yeah. Absolutely. And anything on ethics you'd like to highlight?
Um, I put this in because it's actually a very, very important one, and it was an example that I brought forward as a athletics coach.
Yeah.
Just it's very 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 important to get the learner to walk through the door themselves. If you're a coach, if you're a professional teacher or anything like that, you must open the door.
Mhm.
But at a point, the learner has to want to walk through, and that it's a tightrope. An educator has to walk because you want them to pass courses and you want them to learn this to move on to the next phase of life. But the key thing to remember is it's very, very important to get them to walk through that door and to take that
Ownership.
responsibility.
Yeah,
Absolutely, you've hit on the
yeah,
right word,
yeah,
because you're not going to be around to lift them up all the time. They've got to lift themselves up in their own arms, you know?
definitely, definitely. Okay, then, can you just do a quick summary then of everything you've talked about and what were the really important points that you wanted to get across?
Yeah, it was really the important thing to remember is the practical example, the history was all about gently pulling on the course delegates, gently teasing them through a little journey away from their cognitive mind and into the reality of their own natural response to new information, a threat, some instability, so that they can understand and have awareness of where they actually are with new information. And then to take that forward into an understanding of how they can reflect on their specific tendency and role into coaching. And that stepped into a little bit more into a few ideas about coaching, which were very very much at a top level rather than any fine detail. But it was really about giving people the opportunity to see and feel something that's real and something they can use and begin to inquire about
Yeah.
as they go forward.
Perfect. And thank you for that, Spencer. I mean, it's a very different approach to what we normally use in the provider development team here at NCFE. So we
Yeah,
really appreciate your different take on the subject. So thank you. You're an absolute star. Thanks ever so
you're very
much.
welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.